Man, big win by Indiana. Big win by Indiana. There you go. Don't forget, best beer. Best beer of Bloomington.
Boy, if you
I guess
ever
we got to bring
needed-
that down a little bit
You
more.
ever needed Bud Light.
Best beer of Indiana. Bringing this broadcast to you as well. Yeah, you're right, Ed. Thanks a lot to the turnovers.
Oh, man.
Set that one there so you can still see it. There we go. Perfect. They're about here, man. First of all, a huge win by Indiana. They have not had a lot of success at Madison Square Garden, and they get a big win, an important win. They needed this to go forward, and this is something they can really build on. But they made it look difficult.
They needed it to go forward. We needed this to happen. I mean, this is these are the heart attack kids right here. I mean, this is crazy what they're causing all of us as a fan base. I mean, that game, that's a good win. You've got to win a game in the Jimmy V Classic. You're going somewhat on the road, playing in Madison Square Garden. It's a big game. That's the side of it where you just look at it. This is going to be like the Purdue football win for IU. That later on down the year, we're just going to look at it as it was another victory, but it sure wasn't pretty. And this was some ugly basketball. Just so many things. This is one you could watch a lot of game film on this one and teach a lot of people lessons on how important each possession is. This was a tough one.
And I think the fans recognize that. Leah says terrible play from both teams all night. There was a point where, what did I say the shooting was? I think one team had hit one and the other had hit any in like 5 minutes.
At one point in the second half, the two teams combined were shooting like 16%. And it was just, I mean, it was ugly. When it was 38-38, this was a very ugly basketball game. When you get
there you go, Tim.
When you get Dick Vitale telling you that it's an ugly basketball game, it's an ugly game. He can only see out of one eye, and this was.
Here is a stat that I'm going to give you for the fans at home. You know how many players Indiana had in double figures tonight?
I'd like to know when the last time this was.
Zero. Not
That's
a single player in double figures. Al Durham had 9 points. Justin Smith had 8. Trace Jackson had 8. Joey Brunk had 9. And that's as close as they got to double figures. It doesn't matter, but it's just a unique, weird stat. Low-scoring game, though. A little lower than I expected in the 50s.
Yeah, definitely. Just because both teams played so bad. I mean, it was
turnovers. My God, the turnovers that UConn had.
21,
22.
22
Ended up with 22.
Yeah.
Indiana ended up with 13. Not horrible, especially considering they picked up 5 quick ones in the
They finished with 13 and had none in the last 10 minutes of the game. If that tells you what the rest of the game was like, but this was ugly. This was an ugly basketball game that you got to feel very fortunate to come out as the victor in this one. And I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and act like this was a great basketball game by Indiana. It's a win. It's a good win. Later in the season, we'll look at it as, hey, they're 9-1. That's great because you got to take the positives out of this because there are a ton of negatives.
Devontae did not have the night he was looking for. The last I checked, he was 2 of 10 from the field, 1 of 6 behind the three-point line.
They missed 2 but huge free throws at the end of the game. I mean, I got on. I want to make sure that I say this because I'm pretty tough on players, and I don't sugarcoat it a lot when it comes to what I feel about players. And Joey Brunk in the first half was absolutely miserable. Like he had no business being on the floor. In the second half, he's really the reason why they hung on and held on to the game.
He worked hard.
He did. He had 9 points in the second half, and he went on a stretch right there where if he wasn't in the game, I'm not sure that Trace Jackson Davis wouldn't have scored him, but Joey Brunk, I give him credit. In the second half, offensively, he did much better. Defensively, he's still a liability.
Alan asked about that very thing. Ken Burns asked, and we were thinking the same thing, where the hell was Trace Jackson Davis until the end? Where was Rob Finney for that long stretch? And where did Devontae go? I really am. I guess I'm not coaching
Flip the stats up there again. Tell me what Jerome Hunter's line is.
I'm not coaching the team, but these rotations just are really befuddling.
Jerome Hunter plays 11 minutes in this ball game. He's 1 for 2, and that's it. He has 1 rebound. I mean, that's
Trace Jackson Davis, 7 rebounds and 8 points. Normally, that's just a very moderate line. Tonight, it's a little bit bigger, especially out of 34 rebounds, he grabbed 7 of them. Indiana, and speaking of rebounds, 37-34, UConn gets the edge, but that was a much bigger differential throughout that game, and it kept closing.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many missed shots in this game. Think of the amount of rebounds that should have been had. I mean, UConn missed 30 shots in this basketball game. I mean, that's just.
But if I'd have told you that Indiana was going to get outshot from the field, they were going to get outshot from the three-point line, would they win this game?
Definitely no.
They did. You know what they shot in the second half? 29%.
If you said Indiana was only going to make 2 3-pointers in this game and no one would be in double figures, because with 2 3-pointers,
and they shoot 29% in the second
with
half.
2 3-pointers, if you told me Trace Jackson Davis still had 18 and 12, I would still say they had a chance to win. But if you gave me the stat that no one scored in double figures and Indiana only made 2 threes, I would have definitely bet you they didn't win this basketball game.
There you James Cockrell. How you doing, brother? He says, my life gets a year shorter every game.
Yeah, you and me both.
He'll be dead by February, he says. Yeah, man, this is a cardiac kind of a thing here tonight. Alan, get a Pabst Blue Ribbon, boys. You need something better than
Bud
that
Light,
stuff.
Best
Hey,
Beers,
man,
Best Beers Inc.
Best Beer Inc., man, Bloomington.
Yogi's and Best Beer
But
Inc.
they have about 80% of the beer. So
I know, but we're just featuring Bud Light for tonight. It's a Bud Light kind of night.
Here you go. John Bliss says Brunk got tired of the pine. You know what? Maybe so, because I don't know.
He came out in that first half and never came back in.
And he really, that was a different dude in the second half.
It was a different guy. Now, he's still
Johnny
got
G.
some things he's got some things he's got to get better at. I mean, if you're going to be able to play him, he's got to get better on defense. That's what, I don't want to overreact to him playing good in the second half. I have to give him credit because I was so tough on him at halftime. But in that second half, I mean, even though offensively he scored, defensively he's still a liability, and that's where Trace Jackson Davis, he's not a liability defensively. He's the strongest player on the floor and comes up with some of those rebounds and some of those putbacks, and it's just, I don't know. I didn't understand the substitution pattern.
Darren brings up a great point. You guaranteed victory if Rob was playing. And
you're welcome.
Boy, that wasn't looking too good earlier. That tweet was not aging well.
Guys, hey.
But
I did not say
they'd win the half.
I did not say anything other than they would win, and they won.
You got it, man.
I don't have to answer any questions when I'm right.
Andrew says a win's a win. That's right, man. Free throws.
That's the thing. We're being typical IU fans right now, nitpicking. Most teams would be just super excited that they won. And we're criticizing the play, and that's what Indiana fans do. Like we expect not only victories, but we expect it to be pretty and look good, and it didn't look good, but they got the win.
Yeah, and Indiana did shoot, I think, 80% at the free throw line tonight. Not a
Two
ton
gigantic misses at the end.
Not a ton of free throws, 13 of 18, but meanwhile, 6 of 10 for UConn. Indiana does a great job not putting them at the free throw line, first of all, not giving them those opportunities. And 18 and not as many as Indiana normally gets, but again, if you hit 72% of whatever you get to shoot, that's going to usually help you win some ball games.
Yeah, this was, they're 9-1. That's where.
That sounds like the truth, Robert.
You just gotta be happy with 9-1, and you gotta just continue working on the things that you need to improve on, and there's plenty of them.
Matthew says ugly, but this help with the concept of winning the close games. I mean, this young team needs to still learn how to. I don't think this is a young team. First of all, I'm not gonna. This is not a young team. They've got a couple freshmen, but they've got too many veterans.
Rob Finney's just a sophomore.
He's a veteran, though. He started all last year. This is his second season. He's a veteran.
But he's still young. He's played 25% of his career.
They've been saying it's a young team for 3 years. That ship has sailed. No more young team. But yes, Matthew, it does help with the concept of winning close games because, thanks, guys. Y'all have a great night. John says, come on, Todd, give old Lefty props. Well, Durham definitely got heart. Man, yeah, they all got heart, but
who's you talking about, Al Durham?
Yeah,
I love Al Durham. I'm an Al Durham fan. When Devontae was scoring all the points a couple games ago, I'm the first one that said, "Hey, relax." Al Durham was the guy who they rode offensively to start the year out, and I think it'll get back to that point. And I still feel that way. I think Al is probably the second best option on the team. With Finney back, I would say they're 2 and 3 are the same option. I still think Devontae is the best offensive scorer, but boy, it sure didn't take Rob Finney long to come in and make him leave his mark on the game. He dribbled down the court and shot a layup his first possession, being back off the injury, and so just how much better do you feel when he's out on the court? He's the
well. You can see a difference when he's there. You can
No
physically
question.
see a difference when
No
he's
question.
out there. The turnovers, UConn, that helped a lot. No doubt about that. As a matter of fact, how many points off turnovers? They only managed 12 points off of 22 turnovers. Only 7 points off of 13 for UConn.
Yeah,
That's
those are goofy statistics, though. Those don't really mean anything. Forcing the turnovers is in a low possession game like this where you're struggling to score. I mean, the points off of them or whatever, those don't really matter.
Bench points, Indiana 17-5 there, so UConn not getting a lot of help off the bench.
Yeah, and they're not a deep team. I mean, generally, well, they bring in a lot of guys, but they don't bring in a lot of guys that can score or that shoot very much. And it's pretty disappointing. Indiana not guarding Tyler Polley any better than they did tonight. I mean, he was 3 for 7. 3 for 4 from or 3 for 7 from the 3-point line, and that's a guy you can't let get 7 shots up. The guy doesn't dribble into his shot hardly at all, and Indiana just left him open too many times.
Here's a nice stat for you. On 21 made shots by Indiana, 14 assists. That's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah,
That's
come
a
on.
goofy stat too. Like, that doesn't really matter. Some of the stats are just things to report and stat stuffing things for guys to have. I mean, Indiana didn't play well. There's not a good way to sugarcoat it. I will say they came out with the victory, and that's a good thing. UConn's not very good, especially when they don't take care of the ball the way they did tonight. I mean, they just threw it all over the park tonight. But Indiana was able to hang on and able to come back. I told you, with about 10 minutes to go, when they fell behind, I really did not think they would come back from it. If they fell behind in the second half, they would lose the game. And thankfully, they were down, I think, for only one possession because they went behind, and Indiana came back and took the lead right back and then kind of extended it out. Yeah, you do give them credit for that. I do give them credit for that. But man, it wasn't pretty.
Leah loved you in your uniform. Leah, he just told me the other day he still has that uniform.
You would not love me in my uniform today, I can assure you of that. It's not pretty.
Robert, the truth Carter says simply 9-1.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We'll look at this game. It's like the bucket game in football. That was a horribly ugly victory, but we're only 2 weeks later right now, and we don't even talk about that. We just talk about 8 wins.
Hey, we're coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington, brought to you by Best Beer Incorporated in Bloomington as well. Thanks a lot. Surprised by as many fans that's up this late. It's 12:30, so kudos to every one of you guys for sticking with us. It's amazing.
No doubt.
James Cockrell, got to have Devontae play like the senior leader. Last 2 games have been huge disappointments after Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae, disappointments, I don't know. I thought everyone was a disappointment in the Wisconsin game. But
tonight he shot horribly.
But there's other ways he can impact the game.
Right.
And there's other things that he can do. And he's a good facilitator also. There's other things he can do. Scoring is not that big a deal. But he didn't play great tonight either. I mean, you would really struggle. I mean, if I asked you right now to name a player of the game, who would you name?
Trace Jackson-Davis.
I mean, I'd name Rob Finney, to be honest with you, and I don't even know what his stat line was. It couldn't have been great, but he was the equalizer to me. He was the guy who calmed everybody down, and but he didn't play that many minutes. I mean, towards the end of the game, he wasn't even in, so it would be hard to award a player of the game in this game.
A big win on Alan points out, a big win on national TV at the Garden. That helps. I don't know. It helps with the mentality that you come home with.
I guess.
To use that as going forward.
We sure didn't scare anybody across the country. I can tell you that.
And if UConn had won, they wouldn't have scared anyone either.
No, without.
And I didn't mean that.
Hey,
Dr.
Dick
Dennis,
Vitale with 8 minutes to go said this was an ugly game, and that's the most poignant comment he's made in years. because it is right on the money. It was an ugly game. Both teams struggled offensively. Neither team took care of them. When teams are turning it over at will, with the way both teams were, it's tough to watch sometimes. And you know, if we weren't Indiana fans, we would have probably flipped this one off.
Alan wants to know what's wrong with Duran. James says someone needs to get in his face and get him fired up. He's playing like he's afraid to make mistakes. So that's all he's doing. Can't play scared. No, you can't play scared. I don't know if it's playing scared or not playing assertive or what. But he's not the only one, by the way. But he is one of those that his production. Now I know he was hurt last year, and I don't know if that's still affecting his play. But he's not the player that he was. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I'm scared to see what he's going to play like when he's 45 years old, because he already plays like. He's already got an old man's game and plays like a.
He's got an old man's run. I can tell you that.
I don't know what to say. Like he's not capable of playing against a guy who's athletic and quick and can move. I mean, there were some plays tonight. The one play where they threw him and all he had to do was catch the ball, one dribble, and lay it in, and he did. I mean, he fumbled it out of bounds. Like it's you can't play. You can't play at this level and make a play like that.
Christopher says Rob was a huge difference. His presence on the court, his engine that makes it go. You can, like I said earlier, you can definitely see a huge difference when he's out there. There's a little bit more confidence in that offense.
No, there's not. You're completely wrong. There's not a little bit more confidence. There's a gigantic difference in confidence. Like it's immeasurable what Rob Finney does for this team, and I don't think. I think the coaching staff will just have to come out of this one, and I think they'll definitely give a lot of credit to Rob Finney. Even how many minutes did he play? In his limited role that he played tonight, I still think he would have had to have been close to the player of the game.
13 minutes.
13 minutes. Boy, it sure seemed like he played more than that, didn't it? He had 6 points on 3 shots, 4 of 4 from the free throw line in 13 minutes. He had 4 rebounds.
And let's give Joey Brunk credit, too. I know you did some.
I did a little.
19 minutes. He only played 19 minutes. He scored those 9 points in that second half, and he played a pretty good amount in the first half.
He had to have, because he probably only played 5 minutes in the first half, 4 to 5 in the first half, because once he came out, he never came back in.
He really worked hard. I said that earlier, but, I mean, he was battling underneath there, and that's something that they weren't doing as a team in that first half. They weren't battling and fighting. They had a little more fight in the second half.
He did, no doubt about it. I agree. In the second half, he definitely played better than he did in the first half. But he's got to be able to play better defensively. You're not going to be able to guard. I mean, the guy from Maryland will just absolutely eat Indiana alive.
Okay, here's a great question. Ed wants to know how many players from his current roster should he be using in this rotation?
Well, I've named the starting 5 that I think it should be. It should be, in my opinion, it should be Finney and Devontae, Al Durham, Justin Smith, and Trace Jackson-Davis. And coming off the bench, you get good solid minutes out of Joey Brunk. You can get
Armand Franklin.
It would probably be your 6th guy, depending on whether you needed a big guy or a guard or a big guy. Would be Armand Franklin or Joey Brunk. Those guys coming in, and then you can put in sparingly Jerome Hunter and DeBeese. Those guys can come in off the bench and contribute.
But he's doing that in much bigger chunks right now.
Their minutes need to be. I mean, if this team is going to be able to win consistently, the minutes for those other guys have got to be less than double digits. And until they prove otherwise. Hey, guys can always get better during the season. I'm all for that. I want them to play 10 guys. But right now you're playing people that are not capable of playing. Jerome Hunter had no business being in this basketball game today. Deron Davis, 0 business being in this basketball game today.
Leah says we played sloppy ball night. Yes, they did. Linda loves your high bar.
Leah just became Mr. Obvious, Mrs. Obvious.
Yeah, they do. They do need a higher bar, but getting to this bar, I guess, is a step. But they have to get past this, and they have to do it quickly because here comes Big Ten play
here's the
soon.
Thing. They're 9-1. They're going to win on Friday. Nebraska's not any good. They're going to be 10-1. And they're going to play Notre Dame. It's going to be a battle, but they should probably win that one. You're probably looking at 11-1. They're going to play Arkansas at home. They're going to be 12-1. I mean,
it's not a bad start.
We'd have taken 12-1 to start the year at. I'm not sure which game we would have said they would have lost. I don't know. I would have picked that Wisconsin game as the one they would have lost, but hey, 12-1. I'm going to say right now, Indiana will be 12-1. I think they'll win all of these remaining games in December.
Absolutely, and then we talk about that. Forget where my head. Oh yeah, the Big Ten, we've talked about this a lot, how it's a juggernaut. I talked about Penn State being a team you better look out for. What happens tonight? Bam, Maryland. Down goes number 3 or whatever they're ranked right now.
Yeah, they were.
Number 1 went down earlier, too. Texas Tech in the early game tonight at the Garden beat Louisville, number 1 Louisville. So there was a big game there. But the Big Ten is going to be a juggernaut, and they're going to have to play better than this every time out just to have a chance of winning.
Okay. So I'm gonna put myself in check here just a little bit, and I'm gonna remind myself it's December the 10th. Okay, we're all the way back to December the 10th. So it's still very early in the season. This team has plenty of time and opportunity to get better. And I do think that they have. I still am super excited about what I saw in the Florida State game and the fight and the ability in the Florida State game. They took care of the basketball, and I'm still hopeful that we, improve on that. This here tonight is definitely, there's things they can improve on, but it's December the 10th. They've got an opportunity to get a lot better, and they're 9-1. I mean, I'm probably being a little bit nitpicky and difficult on them right now.
Hey, guys, if you're living in the Bloomington area or if you're up for a game, make sure you come to Yogi's after the game, because this is where we're going to be every time doing the post-game show after the game with Todd Leary, brought to you by Yogi's and Best Beer of Bloomington. So come into Yogi's, have a beer, and enjoy the show whenever you're here, because there's going to be a lot of
There was a show I was putting on here tonight because I was slamming some tables out here.
Jacked up.
I'm telling you, you've never watched a game with me in person. I'm a throw the remote at the TV kind of guy.
Let's see. I just saw a good one. Christopher loves you on the show. Tell it how it is. Of course, that's what we do. Like I said, if you want a stroke and all that, go listen to a fan page. We don't do that business. This is the real deal here, man.
I love Indiana
Paul
basketball.
Finney and Jackson Davis need to be on the floor in the last 5 minutes. Yes, they do.
Agree.
Why aren't they?
Agree.
That's a huge. Why? Any thoughts on why that's not happening?
Well, I'm sticking with my superstition on why they had the starting lineup for a while, and that changed. In this one, I'm just going to say
we love you, Leah.
I'm just going to say that people on the bench need to be reminding them. I was saying it to you while it was going on. When Joey Brunk went through that little stretch where he scored those baskets in a row, I even said, hey, let's not ride this train too long. Let's go ahead and get Trace Jackson Davis and Finney back in here right now. This would be the perfect time to bring some fresh legs in here. And I don't know why they didn't do it. I almost waited a little bit too long, to be honest with you.
I was shocked when it was only like 3 minutes
when
to
they
go.
came out of that last time out and those guys didn't come out on the floor.
Dude, the game is on the line.
I couldn't believe it. I'm with you.
And I still cannot come up with – I asked you, I said, did he get hurt? Did I miss it? I thought I missed – Trace Jackson Davis getting hurt because he was still on the bench. I can't understand why your best player is on the bench for no reason. He wasn't in foul trouble, was he?
Nope.
Excuse me.
No. I don't know. I mean, I think the big question mark early in this season has probably been, one, a lot of the playing time, but just secondly, some of the lineups that are out on the floor. We're old school. We all have to keep ourselves in check and understand we're old school Bob Knight people, and we believe that when guys make mistakes that they come out and they've got to earn their way back onto the court. And it's kind of a new age and a new era. That's not really the case. That's not what's going on anymore. And guys can make mistakes, and I'm talking multiple mistakes, and somehow hang around and still be out there. So
Johnny Ballgame's wanting to talk baseball, man.
He's a Cardinals nerd.
Look at Leah jumping in telling him, this is about IU basketball. Who cares about baseball?
That's
look
right,
at Leah
Leah.
go, Johnny G, look out now. She's going to
fired
get
up.
excited. Ed says, hey, Todd, how many players should be in? Oh, that was earlier. I missed that. My bad. How'd that question come up again? I think we talked about that. Karen, thanks for joining us. Do you think this rotation – I keep asking the same question every time. Do you think this rotation thing is going to change? It doesn't look like there's any change in sight. I mean, maybe a few changes. Devontae started tonight. That was a difference. He hadn't started this season, but the rotational things continue to stay the same.
I think it'll change, and I think it'll tighten up. I'm not sure it will to our liking, which Archie Miller sure as heck doesn't need to make us happy. But I mean, I think it'll tighten up. I do think he's probably going to continue to play Deron Davis some, and I just didn't understand this lineup here tonight. I thought this was a really good opportunity for Indiana to play small tonight, because even though on paper UConn looks like a big team, the Tyler Polley guy is 6'9", but he's a standstill spot-up shooter. He doesn't even go in the lane, hardly ever. 80% of his shots come from the three-point line, and that's without a dribble on the three-point line. So he's just spotted up, throwing him the ball and shooting shots, so you could guard him with a 6'2" guy. It wouldn't matter. And so I thought it was a good opportunity for Indiana to play small, and they really didn't do it very much. I mean, they tried to continue to keep a couple big guys in there all the time, and I was pretty surprised at that. I thought we might see Finney and Devontae and Al Durham and possibly Armand Franklin, but for sure Justin Smith and all in there with Trace Jackson Davis, and I don't know that we ever saw that lineup.
Is it possible that this is being done because once we reach Big Ten play, those guys are going to be needed. They're going to be needed to play minutes. They're going to have to come in there and bang and hopefully be somewhat productive.
Tonight. They were needed tonight.
Well, I get that.
I mean, I know what you're asking, and I know what you're saying, and no, I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe he's resting them up so that they
thank you.
So that they have.
Meaning we're not doing load management?
I don't think so. I don't think we're load managing their minutes right now. But I mean, I don't have a great answer. I can't explain it. I mean,
Shannon's coming to the Arkansas game. Can't wait to have you here, man.
We do not. We have to make sure. These are our opinions. Like, I know I played at IU, but I don't have a whole lot of inside information, especially when I start saying mean stuff the way I do right now.
You're going to love this one.
They're not going to love.
Tim said you're wrong. Finney, Jackson Davis, Green, Smith, and Anderson was the best on the floor tonight. That's when they went on the 13-3 run in the last 5 minutes of that half. That was a good run. I don't know that.
So what was Demezy's contribution to that?
I was getting ready to say, I don't remember what Demezy did in that other than being the drummer for the Beatles. But, yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't remember that particular his play there.
Demezy looked out of place in this game tonight. I don't.
We appreciate you, Brent.
I don't mean to pick on him. I'm just calling it out the way that it is. He looks out of place.
I don't. Yeah, there's no point in us sitting here trying to wave the pom-poms. That's
yeah, but I mean, I'm also not trying to pile on and jump on a 20-year-old kid either. But I'm just saying, like, I want to be his fan. I want to be a Demezy Anderson fan.
Linda wants you to talk to Archie.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen anytime soon.
Let's see, Richard. So Todd, you brought it up. What's the better to a mistake, pine, or mistake and be allowed to work through it?
Well, here's what I don't like. I don't think guys should be scared to make a mistake. But making a mistake and just throwing the basketball around are two completely different things. And you go back and watch those turnovers through the first half, those are not mistakes. Those are bad pass, bad decision turnovers. There's a gigantic difference. And you don't get to play through that. You play through mistakes. You drive to the basket, you don't finish, you drive to the basket and get stripped or things like that. Coaches let you play through that kind of thing. You throw a terrible pass to a ghost that's not even out there and that makes no sense. You throw alley-oop passes that don't get completed. I mean, an alley-oop pass, there's probably 3 alley-oop passes thrown in my entire 5 years while I was there, and I'm not talking about for me. I'm talking about anyone on the team. Like, the reason is because if you don't complete one, you come out. I don't care if your name's Cheney or Leary or what your name is. It does not make a difference. So you decide. I mean, you've got a risk-reward there as a player. You choose whether that's a good pass or not. And I'm not saying you don't take a little risk and try to play through and make some things happen. I'm all for guys having a little bit of rope extended to them to make some effort mistakes. I'm fine with that. Not decision mistakes. These passes that were made in that first half, you cannot watch those and tell me that those are things you can play through. Those are just bad decisions. Terrible.
We're going to have to watch the tape again when we watch the film. Demezy's defense, that may be a reason it's getting him minutes. He did play some good defense, but I don't know. I didn't pay attention to him the whole game. We have to check that out. Ed says, how many times did IU go late into the shot clock and then get off a horrible shot?
A lot. Too many times.
Linda says Coach Knight taught you well. Well, he certainly taught a lot of lessons. I mean, but it's true.
I'm hard-headed. I learned the hard way.
But I will tell you, I mean, I don't know how many times that we're talking. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. Something comes up and Todd references, well, you know, I learned this from basketball, from Coach Knight, and it's true today. And he uses it in so many different facets of life. But he was relentless on doing it. You know, the old saying, practice makes perfect. Actually, it makes it permanent. And seems like from what you've said, that you guys were just relentless on doing it over and over until you did it right. And did it right every time.
And you know, when I played here and when all the guys played here, I mean, we would all talk about it, not to Coach's face, obviously, but we would all talk about it. Hey, I wish they'd back off a little bit, let us make a few more mistakes, let us try a little bit more, you know, risky plays and things like that. But that's just not the way it was. We learned you couldn't do that, and if you did it and it didn't work out, I mean, I can tell you, I got in trouble. My freshman year, we played in the Hoosier Classic or Indiana Classic, whichever one was up at Market Square.
I'm about to open this damn thing.
I made a play at the end of the game, and I scored a basket. It was a pretty good move. Like for me, I thought it was a pretty cool move, and I made a little bank shot, and I got absolutely reamed because I missed an open cutter. And I did make the shot, but I could have hit somebody for an easy, wide-open layup, and I missed him. And that was kind of my job. That's what I'm supposed to be facilitating, getting other people involved. And I missed it, but I made a good shot. I felt pretty good about myself, and, I mean, I got drummed for that. And that was kind of eye-opening to me where I realized, okay, I got a lot to learn. If I'm going to play here, I got to do things their way or his way, and not their way, his way, and that was the bottom line, and I learned that, and everybody either learns that or they leave or they don't play. It's the way it is, and I think these guys have got a lot. They've got a lot of improvement and learning to do, and they just got to value the basketball. They'll make good decisions on their own if they just value the basketball.
Andy says Devontae equals Troy Williams. I've made that comparison a little bit before, but not right. Devontae's ceiling is much higher than what Troy's was, I thought. Even though Troy made it to the NBA, he's got a higher ceiling.
What's the comparison? Troy Williams couldn't make a three-point shot I locked him in the gym overnight. What's the comparison?
It's the kind of crazy, out of control at times play, I think, is what he's referencing. Yeah. Because I know exactly what he's talking about.
He had one specific play tonight that I think could probably be the reason why he sat on the bench there towards the end. But, I mean, you can't single those plays out because if that's the case, we would have been playing.
Mark, I can't wait to answer that.
We'd have been down to the end of the bench because everybody was making mistakes.
Here's my favorite question. Mark Ramey. Justin Smith stepped up later in the game and played well, but once again he took some horrible shots behind the arc. I don't understand why Archie doesn't let him know that we have plenty of outside shooters. Your thoughts? Well, let me tell you my thoughts first. I've been saying that nonstop. His job is not to shoot three-pointers. And
he even made one tonight, and we're still saying that.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, he has skills, and put those skills to work where they work. Let Devontae shoot. Let Al Durham shoot. Let Armand Franklin shoot.
Don't let Armand Franklin shoot.
Well, I'm just saying, other than Justin Smith, I'd rather see him out there shooting.
I wouldn't. Well, I disagree.
Then Justin Smith go ahead
but it's
shoot.
not one versus the other. Neither one of them should be shooting three-pointers until they prove to me, and here's the thing. Armand's shooting less than 17% from the three-point line. Jerome Hunter is shooting less than 17% from the three-point line. There's only one of two things that would ever happen. Either you would never shoot another three-pointer or you would never play again. That's the only two options of what could happen. You are not a three-point shooter. I don't know what has to get across their head to get them to understand.
But is it getting to them? That's
apparently not. Apparently not, because they shoot one every game.
Yeah, that's Brent. How many layups did we miss tonight? Had to be 7 or 8. Not only that, they got blocked. I think 8 blocks. Is what UConn ended up with.
We know Aycock had 4 of them.
Wow, they were blocked a lot. James says valuing every possession. Thank you. Yes, I must have missed the first part of that one, James. But
what happened?
I'm just reading off. Valuing every possession.
Yeah, I mean James is exactly right with that. I mean that's. The basketball, like Coach Knight used to have a deal that how valuable every single possession was. And if you would throw away a pass, like I think I've told you the story before, like I think it was my freshman year, but real early in my career, I had made a really, really bad play and a really bad pass, and I was bringing the ball up the court, and Coach Knight called me over. At this point, in that game, I had made a really bad one. And Coach Knight called me over as I was dribbling the ball up the court and told me to give the ball to the guy who was guarding me. Told me to hand it to him. And I was like, you don't really mean that. He goes, no, hand him the ball. Like, hand him the ball. I'm standing on the side. I'm going to get a 10-second count. And I'm sitting here, got the clock ticking in my head, and I'm like, okay. I just gave him the ball. He went and laid it in. And then he called a timeout, and he called me over, and he said, that's exactly what you did on the possession before that, too. I figured
Who were you all playing?
It was like the Russian team. It was like an exhibition game.
I was going to say, this could not have.
It was real early. I think in my freshman year. It might have been my sophomore year, to be honest. But it was no.
How
I
many
think
coaches
it was
would think to do that though?
But I mean, it worked. Like I got what he meant.
Got the point,
I was embarrassed. Right? I was embarrassed, and it.
I think that was his point.
It wasn't a whole lot of fun, but.
Is it Eric? I'm not reading very well. Eric, we miss a pure 3-point shoot. Yeah, they don't. That's been a problem for about 3 seasons.
They do miss.
Now.
Yeah, they do miss that. But they don't recruit it. So I mean, we might as well get over the fact of hoping that we get it. Because
a lot of things they don't recruit. Well, they try to. They can't land. Yeah, those were the good old days, Linda. James says the problem is shooting too many contested threes. Jerome and Armand's percentages will go up with Rob moving into the ball and hitting guys when open. Maybe that's part of it. But they're still not.
Here's what I hope their percentages don't go up, because that means they're shooting them. They shouldn't be shooting anymore. That's the bottom line. They shoot less than 20%. What in the world would make you think you're supposed to be shooting 3-pointers?
Because even if it goes up 10%, 30% is still not good.
It's awful. I'm telling you, the other teams would look at that and say, leave him open. Leave him. There's a reason why they're open. Some of their Jerome Hunter's 3-pointer was not contested. Armand's not contested. They're just bad shooters. Like, they're not good shooters right now. It doesn't mean they can't get better. That's what the offseason is for. That's not what the season is for.
But when you have a guard that's out wide open, do you sometimes have to take that shot, though?
There are situations when, yes, you do have to. We're not seeing those situations. This shot clock's not running down. These guys are taking shots they have no business taking. The bigger – tonight's not as big as an example of that as Wisconsin was. Armand and Justin Smith and Jerome Hunter all took 3-pointers at very critical points when, it was the difference between being down 8 and being down 11 and then 14 and then 17 when these guys all chucked up 3-pointers and they had no business taking them. That ball should be going every shot. Think about this in your mind when you want to analyze it. Would you rather Jerome Hunter or Armand Franklin or Justin Smith shoot a 3-pointer or Trace Jackson Davis have the ball in the post and make any kind of move? I don't care if he shoots a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hook shot.
Free throw line.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take any shot that if he wants to put it between his legs and flip it over his head, I'll take that over those guys shooting a 3-pointer.
And I know it sounds like we're being just all negative, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's just being truthful about things that they need to improve on, because sitting here patting them on the back for some of the things that they did well, that's not going to help them. You've got to fix the things that need fixed. But what positive things did come out of this game tonight? A win, number one.
Somebody made a great point earlier about figuring out a way to win. There's a lot of times coaches, you don't want to have to explain how badly you played, so coaches will just coach speak it and spin it into we figured out a way to win. And there's a value to that. I mean, this was not a pretty game. I'm telling you right now, like, hey, somebody text us in and tell us who you think the player of the game would be, because you can't even hardly name one. I mean, the second half, Joey Brunk probably was, but his first half was so bad you couldn't name him player of the game. The only guy who I think played steady and didn't make any real bad mistakes is Rob Fennessy. Other than that, everybody had some really bad play at some point.
As we get closer to Big Ten play, and we're not there yet, we've got Notre Dame.
We got one this Friday.
Well, yeah, I know, but I meant really just getting into it full time.
Consistent Big Ten.
And does Nebraska really count as bad as they are?
It's going to count as a win. Thank goodness.
It counts on the record book. What are they going to have to do different? Because we've talked about this Big Ten. This may be a tougher Big Ten this year than it was last year, and it was a good league last year.
Yeah, I mean, some of the better teams last year might have been better. There might have been more really good teams, but the parity between 1 through 7 is pretty amazing right
It's
now. And
unbelievable.
on any given night, like that's where you can take the game Indiana just played. You take that game and go to Wisconsin, you get beat again. You take that game to, well, I should probably go the opposite. You can probably only take that game and win at Northwestern. Is maybe maybe Nebraska. Maybe the only 2 teams you could go beat playing the way Indiana played tonight on the road.
Road games are going to be absolutely brutal.
They would get destroyed by Penn State, Penn State, Maryland, Michigan State, Ohio State, Iowa. I mean, everybody would destroy them. Minnesota, everyone would beat them playing the way they played tonight, except for possibly Northwestern and Nebraska.
How positive is it to get a win playing that poorly?
It is. There's a benefit to it. Trust me. And the guys are not going to come back from this. They're not going to be partying on the plane flying home tonight. I mean, they know they didn't play well. Coaching staff knows. Look at the look on Archie's face. You can tell over there he's frustrated. He knows they're not playing well. No one's coming out of this saying, we feel great about ourselves right now. And they know they got some struggles. And, yes, there is definitely a value to there's a value to winning a game when you don't play very well, for sure.
Richard said the offense is confusing. We're tight around the perimeter and get forced to playing on one half of the court. Would like to see us running it up from the top of the key. They haven't been running like they were early in the season. Why is the tempo slowed down so much?
Yeah, I mean,
because remember back in Evansville, you bring up Evansville a lot when we saw Archie speak last fall or whenever it was, and he talked about you're going to see a highly powered offense. We're going to not seeing that.
I mean, I don't think that they're not trying to run. I mean, I think the best thing we've seen out of them is the guards driving the ball. I mean, look what Rob Finney did on his first possession. He's in the ballgame tonight. He drives it straight down the lane and lays it in. And I think that I really feel like you're looking at a team that is trying to identify themselves. They're trying to come up with their own. They want to push the ball. They're better when they push the ball. I don't think the half-court offense is that great, except for I really want to see Trace Jackson-Davis start touching the ball a lot more. I thought in that first half, we were going to see a lot more of that. But
you guys are listening to After the Game with Todd Leary, coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington. Brought to you by Best Beer Incorporated in Bloomington. We're grateful that you guys are with us, man. We had to be here, so we're so grateful you guys are with us as well. Nicholas wants to know, am I wrong to think Davis didn't seem to have much drive or hustle tonight?
Which Davis?
Well, I'm sure he's talking about
Trace Jackson?
Deron Davis.
Okay.
There's no way he's talking about Trace Jackson.
I hope
Davis.
so. I don't.
So let's go with it being Deron Davis.
Can you say? Did he say hustle?
Yeah, drive or hustle.
Oxymoron. Deron Davis and hustle.
Mark Jerome Hunter, I thought played better and looked more comfortable, and also had this huge block on the other end after he hit the shot. I think it will be a big piece to the puzzle later in the season. Yeah, I don't know about that.
James Cockrell, that's a good call on Al Durham. You're probably right. Now that you think back on it, he made that layup he made right at the end of the game. You'd probably have to agree. I don't know what his stat line was, but Al had to be one of the 8-9 point guys.
Oh, he did. He
probably
had 9.
A good point.
I think he had 9 points.
He'd probably be the player of the game. But still, I mean, look at where we're at when we're trying to come up with who was the player of the game. I mean, it's everyone. And Al and Finney probably made the fewest amount of mistakes.
Trace Jackson was pretty good. I mean, you can put all three of them in there. I mean, it was just a game where no one.
I loved Trace Jackson-Davis's game. I'll be honest with you.
I gotta stop calling him Trace Jackson. It's like a nickname, but I gotta stop that.
Trace? We're just calling him Trace?
Trace Jackson or Trace Jackson-Davis. I mean, Trace or Trace Jackson-Davis. I don't know why I do that. Or just TJD. Tim says at the half, Archie was asked about Finney. He smiled and said he's our ball control and creates things. He said he hopes he doesn't tighten up at the half because he may not take him out in the second half. Well, he sure as hell did. I mean, how much did he play in the second half?
Well, he only played 13 minutes total, so not a lot.
Mark says Dick Vitale thinks Ohio State is the best team in basketball.
I heard him say that. Right now, it'd be hard to disagree with that. I mean,
they're absolutely the best team in the Big Ten.
I mean, look at them right now. They're destroying people now.
They may be number one next week. Louisville went down.
How
Maryland goes down. So we'll see about that. Brent says, what are your thoughts on the defensive effort tonight? that was the positive of the game, and I kept them in the game with the sloppy play at the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean,
you got something positive to say? Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah, the defense looked good tonight. I was pretty happy with the defense tonight.
At least they continue to battle. There were, and again, this has been a problem.
As opposed to what's the alternative? Not battle?
Yeah. No, you know what I'm saying. There were times where, again, they're leaving these guys open for open three-point shots. And I don't know if it's part of the weave that they weren't mastering that the UConn was running, but, boy, on those switches, they were just late getting over there. And
yeah, I mean, defensively with the ball screens tonight, I actually thought, I guess if you're going to name a positive, I thought that they actually did a decent job on that. I don't understand how the Tyler Polley guy could get 7 3-pointers off. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, that's all I watched him on game film. I watched 3 films, and literally the guy didn't shoot a single shot inside the 3-point line. It's all he does, and he's a catch-and-shoot guy. He's not going to dribble into his shot very often. So all you have to do is stay close to him. He's the one guy you can't help off of on that entire team. He's the one guy you can't help off of. And I thought Indiana missed out.
James, you don't even know. He says this game gave Todd a headache. Well, which in turn gives me a headache.
It does give me a headache.
Trust me.
Right.
And
James.
Nicholas was talking about Deron Davis like I thought.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
James says, goes back to valuing every possession like we talked about. That's what Al and Rob are the players of the game. They are the most benefit or the most impactful because of that, and it's why they need to be in there more than I don't. It's kind of aggravating. I don't get it.
I know.
It's like they almost put themselves in this position with some of that. So, Bill's on with us. Hey, IU is far better with the ball in Rob's hands than in Green's hands. Well, that's not his
I'm fine with
position.
either way. All 3 of those. You add Al to that as well. I'm fine with all of them. Hey, here's the thing. And I heard Archie say it the other day, and I think it's really true. I'm glad I heard him say this, was Devontae, you have to live with some mistakes that Devontae is going to make with the ball because he is by far your most prolific scorer.
And that's what I meant earlier about the Troy Williams thing.
But Troy Williams was not an offense. Troy Williams was just athletic as can be.
It's just the out-of-control seeming comparison is what it is.
But you've got to live with some
he's more of a controlled chaos.
Devontae. Who?
Devontae.
Yes, much more controlled. But you're going to have to live. Now, he made one play tonight in the second half that is the reason why he came out, and it was exceptionally bad. Like, it was a play you need to call him over and have a talk about. But for the most part, I really think I'm glad that Archie, he's got a little longer rope than the average guy, I would say. And he needs it. But I'm fine with Al, Devontae, and Rob, all of those. And I'm fine with Armand having the ball in his hands. Armand is just your team takes a different approach when Armand is in there. He is not an offensive threat at all, and teams know that, and they leave him open. And when teams don't have to guard him, they can help on someone else defensively, and that's where it can kind of become a negative.
Going forward now, you got I don't want to say an easy game because there's never an easy game.
You got an easy game.
Nebraska is exactly what they need to continue. You take this game and you take another win, a Big Ten win to start that record going, and that's got to give them the confidence they need. Then you get a Notre Dame and Arkansas you talked about. They could have a real role going in to really open up a Big Ten play.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana is fairly fortunate to with the schedule, I would say. I mean, Notre Dame is the team you would pick to play if you had a choice of playing Butler or Notre Dame right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
And you need the win. I mean, you take Notre Dame right now.
Butler was undefeated until tonight.
Yeah, Butler they were getting drummed by Baylor, and defensively they put the stopper on because they were, I think in the last 30 minutes of that ball game, Baylor only scored 20 points. So it was pretty incredible what they did with that defensively. But I'm just saying, from you're looking at a schedule standpoint, you know, they're going to win against Nebraska, and so they're going to be 10-1, and then they're going to most likely win against Notre Dame, you would think, and then they're, you know, playing at Assembly Hall, they should beat Arkansas. So they're going to finish out December 12-1, I'm guessing, and you would definitely feel good about that, I think.
Well, we're going to have plenty to talk about tomorrow on the show. Speaking of which, make sure you join us if you guys most of you, I can tell, already know, but Indiana Sports Beat radio each day at 9 a.m. live with Coyle and Leary, of course. You can catch us on radio depending on where you live, but you can find it every day at indianasportsbeat.com. And there's a million other places. You can listen to it later on after the deal and as a podcast, wherever you listen to a podcast. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Google, it's everywhere. So make sure you catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Coyle and Leary, because we'll be talking about that tomorrow. The Indiana women get back in action tomorrow night as well, currently ranked 12th in the AP, looking for another win for them. And then, of course, we've got the Gator Bowl coming up, man, January 2nd. Cannot be any.
Come join us in Jacksonville.
Live from Jacksonville, Indiana Sports Beat. We're gonna have some big events. So for those of you that are going to Jacksonville for the bowl game, make sure you send us a message in whatever form or fashion you can get to us. Let us know, because we're going to do some things down there as much as we can with the fans. So we look forward to that.
I'm going to be all suntanned.
Oh, please! I don't want to think about you out there and
get this out at the
Speedo
pool. Get this out at the pool.
Come on, man. Making my stomach turn. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you coming here tonight from Yogi's Bar and Grill in Bloomington. We appreciate Finney Hospitality, Chris Martin, everybody here that always makes things great for us. Starling does a great job, Kelly as well. Thank you guys so much. And nobody better than Best Beer, Inc. of Bloomington for providing all the Bud Light that everybody drank tonight and whatever else they had. I think all the beer basically comes, or 80% of it comes from those guys. So come in and have a beer. Sit in with us on the show. Every game, or every home game, for a fact, we're here. Most away games, but keep up with we will send the events out each time so you know where we are. But if you're coming to a game in Bloomington, make sure you come to Yogi's afterwards and sit in with us here after the game with Todd Leary, or come watch the game if it's an away game here. So, any final thoughts?
Nope, I think I've pretty much summed it up tonight.
Boy, thank goodness.
I got 2 hours to drive home and think about this one.
We appreciate you guys so much. We really do. And until tomorrow morning, for Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.